Hey friends, welcome back, and I hope you're all doing wonderful today. It's time for more Reddit stories about entitled people, Karens, and everything in between. So we're getting right into it. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's begin. Ride my hot-headed horse full speed at the jump? Okay, what do I know? Back when I was 16, I was a regular at our pony club. For those who don't know, that's a club where you bring your own horse or pony and get riding lessons from instructors. Our sole instructor was interesting. If your parents were useful to her, then you got a free pass. But if not, you bore the rough edge of her tongue and were set up to fail. You can guess which camp I fell into. My usual mount was not a jumper, and this day we were concentrating on tricky jump spreads and pacing, so I borrowed a friend's backup horse who was a known spicy ride. The owner was adamant I not wind him up, as he would lose his mind and go full throttle. So I'm carefully taking him around the course, dropping to a trot between jump approaches, then gunning him a little just before the jumps, exactly as his owner wanted, and we were clearing the jumps just fine. Instructor, we'll call her D, tells me I'm going too slowly, and to keep him at a fast canter the whole way. I respond that he will get overly excited if I did that, and we went back and forth a bit. Finally, D roars at me that she's the instructor, I'm just the rider, do what I'm told or go home. Gun it, she yells, so I gunned it. I heard his owners gasp from across the ring. Somehow we cleared the first jump, turned, and instead of steadying for the second jump, I let him go for it. He absolutely went for it. We had no chance with the second jump. We were going too fast for him to judge takeoff, so we hit the jump, literally, and cartwheeled. I flew over his head. His front hoof came down on top of my riding helmet, slid down the front, taking off the visor and the very tip of my nose. Concussion for me, a destroyed helmet. The horse was fine, if a little spooked, and Madam's expert opinion took a hit from the horrified parents and students watching. I told you he'd lose his mind if we gunned it. I would say that OP probably took that too far. Just to prove a point that the instructor was wrong, OP put him or herself in serious danger, and the horse too. But they sure showed that instructor, didn't they? And even got a concussion to show for it. Definitely not worth it just to show that the instructor was making a bad call. But I wouldn't say it's totally OP's fault either. The blame definitely starts with the instructor. They were definitely being put under pressure in the moment by the instructor, who's supposed to be a professional looking out for other people's safety. However, in the comments, OP does kind of seem to realize that their decision probably wasn't the best. Someone asks, so what happened to her? And OP says, absolutely nothing apart from a hit to her ego. She never told anyone to do something stupidly reckless again, so that's a win. Another commenter says, not cool. That's how horses get killed. Flipping. I don't care that that's how riders get killed too, as they have agency. And OP responds, hard agree. I should have sucked it up and ridden home. It's karmic that I was the one who was hurt. My boss stole a $2,000 tip and fired me. So I work as a server in a family-owned restaurant in a large city. I don't want to out the restaurant or the owner. When I did my interview, they told me they would take all tips. Unless a customer tips you over $20, you can keep that. Which I thought was scummy and kind of weird, but hey, whatever. I needed a job badly. A very wealthy, semi-famous person happened to make an appearance in our store. They were exceptionally chatty and we had a really passionate conversation about entrepreneurship and business, and they seemed very interested in my ideas. It was very refreshing and surprising. He left a $2,000 tip. I got $400 once at a wedding, and even that had me floating. I was freaking out in excitement, and when I told my coworkers, my boss immediately chimed in with, I still get to keep that. I said, no you don't. You said anything over $20 you wouldn't keep. He said, find me anywhere that we agreed on that. I said, I don't have proof. I just assumed you weren't that greedy. He said, excuse me? Just his tone at this point and the whole situation had me mixed on my emotions, because I just went from over the moon happy to worried and pissed off. I hit him with, taking $2,000 from someone who's drowning in student debt just because you're too selfish to honor your word is wrong on so many levels. He looked really salty for a second, and then in front of everyone said, you're fired for insubordination. Get out. Now it's important to note that I had only been there 7 weeks. I was finding a new job while working this awful job. As you could imagine, the working conditions aren't great there. I cannot afford a legal battle. I'm just some young Canadian without a clue. I signed something saying something about how he gets to keep tips. I wasn't thinking much of it as I thought I'd be there for a week or two anyways, and probably wasn't paying much attention. And this guy is probably ready for war in a courtroom, seeing he drives a $150,000 car. And just about everyone in the comments on this post is pointing out that whether or not OP signed something, their boss taking their tips is still considered wage theft, period, according to Canadian law. So it sounds like OP would have a pretty good case here and definitely should pursue that. OP mentions that they're in Ontario, and to take a quote from Ontario's official website, an employee's ability under the ESA to keep tips or other gratuities, except in limited circumstances, is an employment standard. An employee cannot contract out of or waive this employment standard, even if the employee agrees to do so in writing or verbally. This commenter also insists that OP should file a claim, saying also don't hold off on filing if you have imposter syndrome or are worried they won't back you. Labor offices like this exist and are staffed year-round to review these filings and investigate claims because wage theft is a huge problem. When you file a claim, you are doing them a good turn by helping them fulfill their mission and helping block another bad employer trying to steal wages and tips. Also, this was originally posted in a legal advice subreddit, and the vast majority of the time the posters don't actually update with the outcome. Which makes sense, they're usually just asking for advice on how to proceed. It's understandable that they've got more important things going on than to update random people on the internet. But nonetheless, I feel like this serves as a good example that this kind of stuff does happen. And if anyone ever finds themselves in this kind of situation, they absolutely should find out what their options are and what they can do about it. Contractor digs on our property without permission. Years ago, we bought a house on a steep wooded hill, and subsequently found out that the neighbor's driveway ran completely across the top of our property. They did not have an easement, but the driveway had been there for 50 years, so there wasn't much we could do about it. The neighbor had the place rented out, but we found out from other neighbors that he was known locally for being a major a-hole and threatening legal action against everyone. The tenants, who were very nice, hated him. The driveway wasn't in good shape and the neighbor had made it worse through having shoddy, unpermitted work done on it over the years. Our major worry was making sure it wasn't going to collapse and come downhill and hit our house, so we hired a professional to check it out. Thankfully, our house was safe. We'd been there a few months when we started hearing construction equipment running. We went up there to find a contractor, let's call him Bob, digging with heavy equipment on our property on the uphill side of the driveway, making drainage. We told Bob to stop digging since he was on our property. He refused because the neighbor who hired him, quote, had an easement. No amount of telling him there was no easement would change his mind. We called the county to report that he was digging without a permit, and they refused to come do anything about it. Short of laying across the driveway, there wasn't much we could do, so we took photos and left. Fast forward a few months, and we hear through the grapevine that the neighbor never paid Bob the $30,000 he owed him for the job. One of our contractors related a delightful conversation he had with Bob, where Bob asked him what kind of customers we were, and he said, the kind who pay their bills immediately. The cherry on top? The country road above the driveway collapsed due to unpermitted digging undermining the hill, the same digging that the county refused to do anything about. It ended up costing the county over $100,000 to support the hillside and rebuild the road. We saw all the paperwork with costs because they needed us to sign off on it, since it was on our property. The county road collapsed past where our driveway came off, so it didn't affect us at all. Difficult customer demands we place her very heavy sofa onto her delicate wooden floorboards. You got it. Back in my warehouse days, there were occasions where the customer service manager, who is still a great friend of mine even to this day, would ask for myself and a few warehouse workers to help him re-deliver and reinstall a repaired/reordered sofa for a customer. The day of the re-delivery, the customer service manager pulls me aside and warns me that this lady is extremely difficult and aggressive. In this instance, she ordered a leather sofa in a high-quality leather, paid top dollar, waited for 22 weeks, and on delivery decided she didn't like the color. Now normally, the company doesn't do reorders for change of mind when it comes to choosing the wrong color, but this lady made such a fuss and complained so much that the general manager made an exception. We get to the home and our contract driver is just unloading. The The customer has chosen a massive 3-seat recliner with a metal frame and bracket on the bottom. Normally, with the metal bracket comes special plastic stoppers that go on each foot of the frame and each edge of the metal bracket so that no damage will occur to a customer's floor. As we carefully navigate the sofa into this lady's lounge room, she starts complaining loudly that us warehouse workers are dirty, idiots, lazy, too slow. We begin to unwrap the lounge and this lady is getting impatient. She's complaining to the CSM, customer service manager. How much longer is this going to take? CSM reassures her that we are taking our time to ensure that the sofa is unwrapped and in perfect condition. What we also know is this lady has light wooden floorboards, so I immediately move to start placing the stoppers on the floor. This woman starts shrieking, "Why is he touching my lounge? Is he breaking it?" "No, miss, I'm just..." "Don't talk to me. Get your filthy hands away from my lounge. I just need a few seconds to put these rubber..." "Put my lounge down, now, or I'm calling the manager." I shoot a look to the CSM and he just shrugs. We place the sofa directly onto the floorboards and we can already hear a scrape. CSM hands the lady his paperwork. She signs off on a successful redelivery and signs off that we have assembled the lounge as required and placed it where she wants. This lady smirks at us and plonks herself down onto the lounge. There's a scraping sound as the metal frame digs into the wooden floorboards. We grab all the plastic packaging and make our way back to the store. Guess what was waiting for us? A customer complaint. According to this lady, we damaged her very expensive floorboards. CSM shows where this customer signed off on a successful redelivery, and that we assembled and placed the lounge to her satisfaction. She got exactly what she asked for. Anyway guys, that's all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So have an awesome day, take care, and I'll see you next time.